Talk about you coming across it and your first reactions to it.
Well, I'm a producer on the show, so I actually got a chance to help to create it. The Oscar-nominated director, Jason Cohen, is a longtime friend of mine. I actually went to his wedding, and he had got a film nominated for showing a former neo-Nazi coming together with his victim. Yeah. And we decided, what if we did that, period? And we wound up doing 8 shows of all kind of people where there's been pain and crime and difficulty trying to come together. And it's changed my life. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what, of the 8 episodes, 2, the surviving parents, they just cannot come to a warm and fuzzy place with the person who took their kid's life, but they still get some healing because they get some questions answered that they had not known for 10 plus years. At the same time, out of the 8 episodes, there are 3 where the survivors actually go and get the person out of prison. So you have literally every possible human emotion and response to this kind of stuff, and it's just mind-blowing.
What was their driving factor in doing that? Like trying to get them out of prison? What's their driving desire?
It's interesting because, sometimes in these conversations, people realize that what they thought had happened wasn't what actually happened. And what they thought the motives weren't the motives. And what they thought the background of the wrongdoer was totally different. And once people start to realize, okay, this is not what I thought it was, and then they see the person has changed. 20 years later, that person is a different human being. And I think what a lot of people don't know is, not because of prison, but despite prison, there are people who go in prison and become diamonds. Yeah. I mean, they are really, I've met some of the wisest, smartest, strongest people I've ever met, I've met in prison. And so some of those people who have really repented and really want to make amends, they can sometimes just create a miracle.
Yeah, we're a faith outlet, and I know that there's a lot of faith communities that go into prisons and stuff and talk to the people there. Have you seen that in this work that you've been doing?
The presence of faith throughout this series is just undeniable. Imagine being a parent who lost a child to a drunk driver. Imagine being a parent who lost a child to a drunk driver or who lost a child to a gang member, and somehow being able to find the strength to go and sit down across from that person. That's a big act of faith. And you'll probably hear the word God used more in this series than the entirety of cable news, the rest of that week. Because that's really what people are relying on in those very, very extreme situations like that.
Yeah, and the act of forgiveness and kind of the weight of what is on them. And have you seen their relief from?
Yeah, what's interesting is the presence of grace is always there. The act of forgiveness is not always there. Sometimes people just can't get to that forgiveness place. But like I said, they still get something out of the interaction, the attempt, because they learn something, they see something, they get some information. So healing can happen, but those who get to the place where they can just truly just forgive, those are the ones where it's unbelievable. It's like a miracle. It's like watching a miracle. And there's one show in particular where, I don't want to give it away, but you do not expect by the end of this thing for the person who has really been holding on for a long time to change and to let it go. And when it happens, it's just mind-blowing. And it's not an act. This is not reality TV. This is real TV. This is not true crime. This is the truth long after the crime. 10 years later, 20 years later, people are still hurting, and this show is trying to bring some healing.
I love that passion that you guys have to do this show. This is like nothing else I've seen, so I love that.
Well, I feel like the Redemption Project is my sermon, and I feel like the Reform Alliance, where I work, is my ministry. We're working to change a lot of these laws through the Reform Alliance. But I see it literally as a sermon. It's a story that we're trying to tell. And it's not just like sermons, just like stuff in the Bible. It's not always pretty. It doesn't always wind up great. It's not always tidy, but there's some powerful wisdom there. In our culture now, we have so much data and so little wisdom. That's what I'm seeing. I mean, these little devices can give you any fact that you want, but they'll also have you like blocking your best friend and like retweeting negative stuff against people that you would never say to their face. So these devices are tricky. and we need more wisdom, and this is a wisdom-seeking show.
And I love that other factor that you're saying of like, see the other person's perspective. And I feel like that would be so good if, you know, that's a great message right now, to see other people's perspectives.
Listen, all these different racial groups in our country need to start trying to see each other's perspectives. The different political wings, the right and the left. We don't have to agree, but we have to try to understand. That's all I say. Listen, we're supposed to disagree. So democracy, you get a chance to have a different opinion. Dictatorship, you can't have a different opinion. Democracy, you get to have a different opinion. That's great, but you also have to try to understand. Because if all we do is fight and blame and accuse, we're not going to have a country. So this show, for me, I'm trying to put some medicine back into a very sick system right now, and I'm hopeful, I'm prayerful that it will work.
See what happens when victims and their offenders meet face to face. I have no idea how this is going to end.
The Redemption Project with Van Jones.
For 100 years, Community Coffee has been about two things: coffee and community. 4 generations later, our passion continues to be making responsibly sourced, great-tasting coffee while giving back to the communities we serve. Let's raise a cup to the incredible communities helping to usher in our next 100 years.